All right, we should be set.
Fantastic. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Hayden. I'm a solution architect at Concurrency. We're going to talk a little bit about low-code solutions. I just got back a couple of weeks ago from Microsoft Build, and one of the things that I was just absolutely blown away with was some of the new tooling that's come out in the Power Platform. Copilot Studio is something that I've talked about a few times. In fact, actually, this talk that we're going to do today is sort of a riff off of the new stuff that's out there. So thanks a lot for joining us, and let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, my name's Brian Hayden. I'm a solution architect. I'm a outdoor enthusiast, so a lot of my talks and discussions use analogies that I bring from my outdoor world into the technology world. Fun little fact about me is that I'm a twin. Who's next? Who wants to introduce themselves? I got a couple people with me.
Yep, I can go ahead and do next. So my name is Ajay Ravi, and I'm a senior engineer working with Concurrency for a little bit over the last 6 years. So I work mainly on the Dynamics 365 Power Platform and low-code solution, helping organizations streamline and build digital solutions. So yeah, nice. Looking forward to this webinar and kind of like go over some of the cool Copilot Studio and low-code stuff.
And Eli.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Eli Rodriguez. I've been a system engineer at Concurrency for 5.5 years, I think. Also working a lot on the Power Platform stuff. So seeing all these new things coming out with Copilot Studio and how the Power Platform is evolving with it, it's very exciting. So we're really, really excited to show everything that it's going on with y'all. Little fun fact, I moved from Wisconsin to Texas. That's why you can see that McAllen, Texas image. I couldn't deal with the weather, so I'm back to the heat. Excited to meet y'all.
And heat you have down there, that's for sure.
Yes, yes, I do.
All right, so I like being a little bit interactive. I don't have a poll to throw up here, but maybe drop a comment on what your role is. This talk is really geared towards business analysts, and so if anybody remembers the movie Office Space, I guess I'm going to ask you, what is it that you say that you do here, for a job? If we go to the next slide, the question I have for everybody is, what is your take on AI technologies and how it's going to affect your job? Some people, think that, AI is going to take my job. And for business analysts, I think that's especially, at the top of their mind, if I can just use an agent or take Copilot notes, what value do I have? So next slide. The answer is no. So I think that, building software, is kind of like, trekking through the woods, trying to find the right path. I've got all these different tools that, compasses, GPS. But at the end of the day, I need a good guide. And so I think business analysts are uniquely positioned to be able to be a trail guide, for the developers to actually do the work. And in the case of today, maybe even just cut the developer out of it. So next slide. What makes you as a business analyst, good at your job? And I would say that, go back to the Office Space, the guy screaming, I'm a people person. Your soft skills are the key. Your ability to communicate with business, people that are doing work and find out, how is it that you're doing it? Why are you doing it this way? Critical thinking of the problem at hand and coming up with a really well-reasoned solution for them. These are the things that make business analysts, fantastic. I would even say, human-centered design comes into play with a lot of the UX people that I've worked with. They think about, the problem space and how we'd actually go about solving it. And most of the people that I've worked with in this space, are always learning new things. I can think of a couple of people that I've worked with at Concurrency that were always pushing, the boundaries. If you took a look at our ADO instance, our Azure DevOps instance, there are so many plugins. We had to start taking them out because they were crushing us. So they're always looking for new tools, ways to get things done. And so that kind of adaptability, is something that's really treasured in your space. Next slide. So what are some of the top trends in 2025, around AI? I mean, generative AI has been around for a couple of years now, but we're starting to see those technologies being applied to product ownership, backlog management, things of that nature. I see a lot of product owners using generative AI to craft well-formulated, well-reasoned, well-documented user stories. It can often think of some of the edge cases or acceptance criteria, that people, don't always think about. I can give you really insightful reasoning around that. Data and analytics, behavior skills. This is becoming increasingly important. Having the ability to collaborate, not just with your coworkers, but coming prepared to a meeting with a lot of thoughts. That's one way that I use Copilot, is help me prepare for this meeting. What are the top 3 questions I need to ask? Those are all really good use cases for this. So next slide. And this is kind of a poll opportunity. Feel free to drop something in the Q&A. But when I do this talk in person, I kind of ask people, for their thoughts and perspectives. How are you using AI today as part of the requirements analysis, as part of the process of building software in the SDLC? So, I mean, some of the low-hanging fruit things that I do every day are, when I have a meeting with a client, I get the automatic summary, but I don't just stop there. I always ask it for follow-up questions and intuition and insights around the meeting. And I use those to gather my requirements. So a lot of my requirements analysis comes directly from individuals. A couple of presentations I've done recently, I can say, here are the facts that I heard, and actually call out who the individual was, what the meeting, time and date was that we talked about it. And it actually is kind of cool that I can hey, Jim, you're the one that said this on 5/25 when we met to talk about this. I already mentioned that, backlog grooming, generative AI is really fantastic for that. Testers are using generative AI to create test data. We've got a demo a little bit later around the treasure hunt. And just to kind of flash forward to that, I used ChatGPT to go and find a bunch of these, hints and clues, and put together a list of 100 things. Would have taken me a while to put together 100 different test cases that actually are real, but I could use AI to do some of that. But any questions or any comments in the chat? I'm not seeing anybody drop anything in, but I'd love to see some of your ideas, how you're using it as well. Why don't we move on to the next slide? But all this brings up an important point, that there's still, actually, there's not just still, but there's more of a trust gap in AI than there was a year ago. And what's really interesting to me, I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago, that this is somewhat a uniquely American thing, and that the trust gap is in the US is actually growing, whereas it's shrinking in the EU and APAC. But taking a look at this graph, you can see that over time, less people are willing to use, rely on AI systems, maybe because they're seeing hallucinations, maybe because they have found some of the, anomalies that happen when you're using it. A lot of people are seeing AI systems as, that they're worried about them. That's gone up from 49% to 62% in 2 years. And that trend is continuing to go, in kind of a negative direction. But, AI, if you use it properly, we're going to see that it isn't necessarily replacing us. It's helping us get, to our destination a little bit faster. So next slide. So I'm gonna take a step back from like, just sort of framing this up, and I want to frame up an application. So I'm a software developer, engineer by trade. Been doing that for over 20 years. And when people ask me like to build an application, my mind immediately goes to something with a screen and an interface, and I start thinking about low-code tools like Copilot Studio as are those really applications? I really had a hard time kind of framing that in my head. And so I want to take you on the journey and help you get to the place where I did, which is, rethinking what an application really is. But at the end of the day, an application has, several different components that are important to call out. Typically, it's got a user interface, so some way for the user to interact with it. It does some sort of logic. It might be that we're processing medical claims. It might be that we are collecting information. It might be if you have a website with a shopping portal, you can only buy 2 of these things, or if I buy this, then I can buy that. And then I have to be able to store that data. So I've got data storage and persistence. And then at the end of the day, most applications aren't just there to collect information, they actually do something with it. So there's some output. Sometimes I work with companies in like manufacturing, so that output could be a physical output. I'm moving something on a conveyor, or it could be that the output is I get something shipped to my house, that I purchased on a website. So next slide. Challenge that I, want to propose to everybody is, what really is an application? And in the early days, we had these, green screen applications, and over, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And as the 80s kind of rolled around, in the 90s, we started having client server applications that, got really goofy with, too many buttons on the screen. And then most recently, we've been doing things in SaaS platforms and web access, and so again, my initial thought when you say go build me an application is something that looks like what you see on the screen today. So I'll ask a question, give you a second to pause about this next screen. Are these applications, advanced, there we go. So if you take a look at these things, are they applications? And I would argue that they all are applications. They typically collect information. A user has to interact with them, and they're going to help them achieve some goal, whether that might be tracking, my fitness on my watch, or asking Echo to play a new song. These are different modalities that, I'm working with a computer system or an application in order to achieve my goals. Next screen. So, thinking back about that, how can we look at non-traditional ways that people do things as an application? Think of somebody who's doing like a sculpture. That artisan, that person that's doing the woodworking, on the screen, maybe they, they don't want to work with their hands so much, but they want to use the creativity. So we turn that artisan and manually working on the woodwork into a CNC router, and we can create these designs using, some AI agent, and allow people to that haven't put thousands or 2,000 or 3,000 hours worth of into their craft, and actually turning it into something beautiful. So at the end of the day, what is an application? And I came up with a simple line, description of it. It's just a self-contained program designed to perform certain tasks, whatever that might be. So next screen. And using that as kind of a basis for the definition, what are applications going to look like in 10 years? That's a long way out with technology going as fast as it is today, but I think that they're still going to have the same major components. We're going to feed information into it through some sort of human interface, whether that might be my voice, whether that might be, signals coming in on this smartwatch, but it's going to have some sort of interaction with, with humans. And it's going to be able to do things on our behalf. And not only just do things on our behalf, but do it intelligently. think of what we're actually trying to accomplish and maybe, help us get to our destination faster. So next screen. Now, this is where kind of Copilot Studio comes into play. And I think I'm going to turn this over to one of the other gentlemen to start framing up the conversation in Copilot Studio. But, from a definition standpoint, Copilot Studio was rolled out recently as really more or less the chat bot, I guess you would say. Eli J, would you disagree?
Oh,
Yeah. So, but even with a chatbot, with an AI-driven chatbot, it's a human interaction. Somebody's typing into it. They're doing it without buttons and without the controls, but they're using their natural language, and now we're voice enabling it. And so we have inputs, we have outputs, we have intelligence, and we have actions. So I'm going to turn it over to these guys to talk about what Copilot Studio is and give you a short little demo. Take it away, guys.
thanks, Brian, for that intro. So we're going to just quickly go over what Copilot Studio is and when that was released and few things, and then we'll kind of go over some of the demo items and a cool game exercise as well, which you can kind of build as well. So Microsoft introduced Copilot Studio a couple of years ago during an Ignite session. So it is a low-code, no-code platform that allows you to build intelligent chatbots, agents. I know that the term is getting updated every now and then. So it's called agents these days. So you can build these intelligent agents using very minimal code or even no code, I would say. But it doesn't mean that you cannot use pro code. There are definitely features and functionality that allow you to include and ingest that pro code functionality as well. But pretty much it's a low code environment, and it will allow you to build intelligent agents to perform specific tasks and activities for you. And also you can utilize the generative AI functionality without applying any code or building any models and things like that. So you can use the LLM model behind the Copilot Studio to kind of use that Gen AI functionalities as well. So again, it was there before Microsoft officially introduced Copilot Studio. There was a Power Virtual Agent within Power Platform, but it did not have the generative AI functionalities. But with the whole introduction of Copilot Studio rebranding and then including that Gen AI functionalities, there are so many additional capabilities as well. So few key things to kind of consider and kind of let you guys know about Copilot Studio. So Microsoft recently introduced the multi-model conversational experience, which is really cool and neat. So the whole concept is that you can actually build multiple agents to perform specific tasks rather than building one agent for doing 10 or 50 different things. You can build individual copilots for certain things and then kind of integrate everything together. So it is currently in preview, and I think it's a really great feature that would definitely be helpful as well for the different business functionalities. And another cool thing about Copilot Studio is that without applying any code or anything, so you can connect with several knowledge sources and data sources. So I can quickly show you a couple of examples shortly. But being a business analyst or from a business side of things, you can actually start building some of these agents with few clicks, and we'll quickly show how easy it is to kind of start that. But again, you do have the ability to make it a bit complex by adding all those additional data sources and everything as well. And again, since it is closely connected with Power Platform, there are over 1,000 plus plugins and pre-built connectors available. So that lets you connect to your different business applications like Salesforce, or Workday, Dynamics 365, ServiceNow, and all those platforms as well. Okay, so just wanted to quickly show how to get started with our Copilot Studio. I'm going to show a quick example of how to do this. So Right now, I am in the Copilot Studio portal. So once you come to the Copilot Studio portal, you can click on this new agent functionality, and that will allow you, or you can see a Copilot inside Copilot Studio. So with this chat and our natural language, you can actually start building a Copilot Studio chatbot within I would say like few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to you know ask for a Copilot Studio that allows you to give best practice for project management. So I'm going to mention something like project management. So so I just provide like a high level details on what kind of agent I'm looking for. So on the right hand side, you can see that with every instruction I add, it is kind of like adding some instructions and everything on the back end as well. So what Copilot did was like it recommended are you okay with project management guru as the Copilot Studio name? So I'm just going to say uh, good. So now you can see that the name got updated to Project Management Guru, and then it is asking what kind of like functionalities or things should the Copilot Studio focus on. So I'm going to quickly mention that provide best practices. I'm keeping it simple for now. And then I'm also going to provide a sample as well, that is like an external data source as well. So I will go ahead and do that, and I'm just going to provide like a data source. So it is pretty much confirming like is there any other modifications. So I'm going to say this looks good. And then what I'm going to do is once everything has been added, so you can see that all those prompts, details, everything has been added in here. And by clicking on create it, you can actually create a Copilot Studio and with the basic instruction, and then you can definitely fine tune all those details as well. So this will probably take a second. So now you can see that the description, the general instruction, and all those details have been added in here. And then if I go to the knowledge section, so you can see that the website which I provided, which is like the public website, that has been added automatically as well. So this is how quickly you can actually start spinning up a Copilot Studio. And then definitely you can add additional components and then functionality along the way as well. I noticed how you came out of mute. Anything you want to like add there?
We're good.
Okay, sounds good. So
We'll just call out really quick that this was all just like you interacting with it as like from a business sense. There was no real technical, questions. Everything was built for you in the back end, and using just a good business sense or business requirement. And I think it's important just to call that out that this didn't require a developer skill set in order to get this up and running, right?
yeah, thank you for that, Eddie. So yeah, that is pretty much how quickly you can actually start Copilot Studio and include all those additional functionalities, and you can add different functionalities, agents, and everything associated to that as well. So what we're going to do is, so we'll be kind of like going over this quick scenario. It's a fun Excel type of thing which you guys can do as well, based on your availability. So I'm going to like quickly go over like a scenario where we can actually build a fun treasure hunt activity as well. So the goal for this particular scenario is that based on the location which you provide, the Copilot, using the AI functionalities or generative AI functionality along with some of the data sources, it will pretty much give you some hints, and then you can kind of like guess what which particular location or a place the Copilot or the AI is talking about. So I think it would be like a fun exercise which you guys can do. So what we have done for this particular scenario is we have used Dataverse as the data knowledge source. So we have stored like about 200-ish different clues along with like a particular location. So we have used database as the knowledge source and then used chatbot for kind of like the interactive purpose. So you can kind of like ask different, I would like a clue for Chicago or like Boston, New York, that kind of thing. And then it will accordingly look for those databases and then provide you some clues so that way you can kind of like guess and play that. So pretty much generative AI is kind of like comes into play and gives you all those hints, and then you can kind of like, play around with this. And in future, if you want to add additional context like external sites like Wikipedia and all those things, you can definitely include that as well.
And the cool part about this is that this isn't just a chat interface to some information. This is intended to demonstrate actually doing work, with Copilot Studio, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then just to kind of like quickly go over some of the Copilot Studio prompts and details, user flow. So we have added like few functionality details along with the different components that you need to configure if you want to set up this Copilot Studio. So all these things will be added to the Copilot Studio as prompts and instructions. And then the user flow would be a person would open Copilot Studio and use this prompt and then kind of like provide the current location, and then accordingly a script or like a hint will be given to the user, and then they can kind of like get that as well. So here's a quick example of like how that conversation would look like. So just for the sake of time, I'm going to like quickly go over like some what I was kind of like doing earlier today. So I just mentioned I wanted to play an adventure game, and the Copilot pretty much asked for like the location. So I mentioned Chicago. So it started like looking at the database, and then provided me like some clues for the first one. So I kind of like guessed that because I'm in Chicago, so I was able to like guess Cloud Gate, and then you can kind of like play around and then kind of interact with the Copilot Studio to uh, play with this cool game. And just to kind of like give you a quick overview, so what we did was this is pretty much like an example of how we stored the data. So you can see that there's a clue text which we have added in here along with the location and what the answer would be and the hint. So we have connected this knowledge source to the Copilot Studio. So you can see that if I go to the knowledge part, I can see game clue. So this is pretty much where we have stored all the different hints and information about the game. And then we are using a Power Automate or like an agent flow, which is the latest name. So we are like using that for kind of like playing and interacting with this agent. So you can see that it'll be like pretty much like a basic chat type experience where you can pretty much mention that I want to like play game and then provide the location, and it starts giving you different examples of the hints, and then you can accordingly guess as well. So really neat and easy way to kind of like maybe like a fun activity type of thing which you can kind of like do based on your time, and then do that. So going back to the PowerPoint, so another thing which we want to kind of like mention regarding Copilot Studio is that so Copilot Studio allows you to build all those chat experience, but in addition to that, there is this agent flow which is previously like Power Automate. So you can utilize agent flow to interact with your business system and get all that information as well. So again, you can build all these agents without much you know spending much time by a simple chat type experience. So you can see that here's an example where you also have the Copilot within an agent flow. So you can go ahead and kind of like mention something like I want to create a flow to get the list of all database records from the game clue table. So by just kind of mentioning few text information there, you can actually, the Copilot would take a first stab at it and then build the rough flow. And then depending on what kind of changes you need to make, you can accordingly do that as well. So these are really nice way to get started by even if you don't have much technical experience or like development skill set, you can use these copilots to get started and then expand and then make necessary changes as needed. So again, great way to interact with your business system and get that information back to the Copilot Studio. Going over a little bit around the knowledge sources. So again, these are some of the key or the common knowledge sources that are available in Copilot Studio. So if you want to connect to a public website or an internal SharePoint or Dataverse Dynamics 365 or ServiceNow, you can actually you know go to the knowledge part in Copilot Studio and integrate that. So that way, whenever a user interacts or asks questions to the Copilot Studio agent, then it will pretty much look at these knowledge sources that you have provided and then provide the necessary Gen AI results. So this way, it's not just looking at the LM, but again, it is looking at the different documents and information that you are providing. So that way, the answers and responses purely based on the data which you have provided. So again, it's a pretty, and you can also upload documents like guides and everything directly from either from SharePoint or as a document. So again, an easy way to give knowledge and knowledge to the Copilot Studio to allow it to kind of like look at those knowledge sources and then give them appropriate results.
Do you have a list of the ones that were the advanced tab? I noticed SAP was in the advanced tab that came out just recently. So these are just the easy ones, but there's definitely a lot of other knowledge sources that you can tie into as well.
Thank you for bringing that one up. So again, like Brian mentioned, so these are like the basic ones, but if you go to the advanced ones, so you can see all these one, and then there are always the Power Automate or the agent flow that you can kind of like integrate and then kind of interact with those systems as well. Thank you for bringing that one up, Brian. Okay, so just want to briefly touch on the whole multi-agent orchestration as well. So this was something which Microsoft introduced a couple of months back, maybe like during build. So the whole purpose is that you can actually build multiple agents for specific tasks rather than one agent doing everything from end to end. So that will allow you the different businesses or users to build their own agents and kind of interact accordingly. So again, this is a whole new concept, and I think this would be really beneficial. So that way, each agent has its dedicated or designated tasks or activities that it needs to perform. So it will be easy to kind of like manage. So that way, you can build all those different agents for specific business related tasks. Again, it'll be currently in preview mode. So in the next month or so, you can actually start playing around and see some of these cool features as well. And just to kind of like briefly go over the channels part. So once you build these Copilot Studio agent, you can actually deploy these channels to different locations. So there's a demo website where you can kind of like use for testing purposes. And if you want to deploy these Copilot Studio into Teams or Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can actually do that like pretty quickly. For Microsoft 365 Copilot, you might have to work with your Teams administrator to deploy that. But again, these are some of the internal channels, and SharePoint is a new one which Microsoft introduced recently. And in addition to that, there are all these additional channels where you can deploy this Copilot in a web app, native app, Facebook, and all those different places. And if you want to integrate with a customer engagement hub where you need to hand off the Copilot to chat to a live agent, you do have the ability to do that by integrating with customer service, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and all those custom engagement hub as well. So With this, you can kind of like build the Copilot Studio and then deploy to different channels based on your preference. And just to kind of like add, SharePoint and WhatsApp are the two new additions which Microsoft recently made. So this will allow you to, deploy these Copilots to SharePoint and WhatsApp as well. Okay, so I am going to hand over to Eli for some additional functionalities around Planner and then a quick demo as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. So as we move into a world where people, business users, developers are working more and more with AI agents, the way that we think about how we build these apps is really starting to shift, right? And Microsoft Power Apps is playing a big role in how this mentality shifts, how we work with the agents, how we use them day to day, how we manage all the solutions at an enterprise scale. And because of that, that's why we have these 3 releases that we have on our screen. So we have plans in Power Apps, which are now under GA, general availability. It's giving not just developers, but makers. Makers could be anyone in your company. It could be a CEO, it could be a president, a manager, business analyst, and developers. A specific team that is going to help you build your solutions. You can go from just an idea all the way to an end solution in a matter of minutes. We also have the new agent feed in Power Apps. So it's still in public preview, but it does give users a very intuitive and new experience to manage how they collaborate with agents. So it's going to give you like sort of like a hub where you are going to be able to see all the agent actions that are being taken in your apps. You're gonna get also real-time guidance on how to complete specific items, and then you're also going to be able to automate some work with some intelligent actions within this agent feed hub. We also have how the managed platform is extending its world-class governance, security, and operational control, which is already being used by ministries around the world. So if we have developers that use development tools like Cursor or Visual Studio Code, they're going to be able to deploy their code-first apps into the Power Platform, and they're going to be able to gain all the benefits that come with the security, management, governance, and all the deployment features. Can we move to the next screen, please? So in the previous slide, we talked a little bit about Plan Designer, right? It was just like a little quick intro, but I want to go a little bit more into detail because I think it's something that's going to make planning and building solutions a lot more easier for makers in your environment or your organization. So what is the Plan Designer, right? The Plan Designer is basically an AI-powered sidekick that you have in your solution that is going to help you build a solution just from writing something in natural language. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can start with an idea, type your needs, what you want the process to do, what you want the app to do. You can even throw in images if you have a very, very, a drawing of your data model or of a flow that you want to have. You can add them to your prompt, and then what the designer will do is it'll start building the solution for you. So it'll go from the user stories, the user personas, the requirements, the tables that you're going to need, suggest applications that you might need, all the way to Power Automate Flows, Power Pages, and even Copilot agents. So it's really giving you a really nice head start for your whole project, your whole solution, but it's tailored to specifically just what you need. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of control of the screen right now so I can show you in real time how it all comes together. Just 1 second. Are we able to see my screen? I cannot see, yep. So thank you. Thank you for the confirmation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we have a business case right now, and I'm going to paste it right here. You can access your planner from your maker portal, the homepage, or you can access it through the plans section and by clicking new plan. So here, I'm going to describe a business problem. I have a business problem right here that I'm just going to copy and paste. So this is what we have right now. I need a solution that allows employees to submit reimbursement requests. The app should let employees submit new and view existing requests. and let managers to approve, deny, or send them back for review. What I'm going to do here, before clicking generate, I'm also going to include preview features so you can also see how it generates processes for us. So I'm going to go ahead and click generate. You see how it's starting to think through everything that I gave it and start building some user requirements, some user personas. On the right, you can see that it's generating some processes. And here, you'll be able to see all the agents that are working currently with me. So I have the requirements agent, which is building this section, the process agent building my processes, the data agent, which is going to determine which tables it thinks I need. And then the solutions agent is going to be, these are the power apps that I think you're going to need for this solution. So this makes building your solution very interactive. You can also have several authors in this same session. The only difference is that only one of them can be editing this plan at a time. So I believe you can have up to 100 people co-authoring this plan. But again, it's first in, first out. So the first one that gets in is the one that's going to have access to be able to edit this, but everybody else can be able to see the changes in real time. So now that I have my requirements and my process, I can actually look into what it's telling me that it believes that I need. So right now I see a submit and manage reimbursement request process. So I'm going to go ahead and click view process. I'm going to hide this for a little bit and then zoom out a little bit. And you can see how it says, oh, this could be your process. I'm going to start the submission, fill the form, submit the form, view the request, and so on, right? It gives me a specific flow that it thinks I will need for this solution. I can edit things from here if I want to. So if I want to add another node, I can add it here. I can select the role that is assigned to it and what the task will be. And then on my document, you'll see that it has the business problem laid out for me, what is the purpose of the plan, and then it's telling me also what are the user requirements here. I can give feedback on whether or not I like this information or not. I can select if this looks good and I can move forward, or if there's things that I want to change in my requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit. And you'll be able to see that I can also ask here if I want to add more personas, if I want to change items, where I can do that manually as well. So if I click on my menu here, I can add a new user role, or I can just go ahead and delete this role. I can also add requirements or delete requirements. So in this case, for me, this looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and click looks good. So now what it's doing is that the data model agent is generating tables that I want to have here. So you'll see that it's generating a table employee, reimbursement request, request status, the manager, and expense type. I can also go ahead and click here, show details, and it'll give me my model that I can see how data is being connected based on what the agent is telling me. I can make changes manually, either through working on this section, or I can ask my agent as well to do things for me. So in this case, I don't think I need request status as a separate table. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove it. And then I'm going to ask to add it as a column in my reimbursement request. So add status as a choice column to reimbursement request table. So it's currently working on it. And you'll see that now I have my status option set here. Another neat thing is if I click here on view data, it already also has mockup data for me. So it's really easy for me to be able to know what I'm doing as I plan my solution, to get a real grasp of what my solution will look like once I start building. So in this case, we're gonna say that we're good to go on this table. So we're just gonna go ahead and go back. And I'm gonna say that this looks good. So now the solution agent is thinking through what I have here, thinking through the requirements, thinking through the processes, thinking through the data model, and saying, this is what I think you need as far as technology. So it's telling me that I need a Canvas app for the employees to be able to submit and edit their reimbursement, that I need a model-driven app for managers, you need a flow for the notifications, and then an agent to be able to do this through a Copilot agent. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click edit, and I'm going to do a natural language prompt and say remove manager or remove model driven app. Everything needs to be in a single Canvas app. Go ahead and click next. And now you see that it has made updates for me. And now I only have my employee reimbursement app, but I still maintain my notification and my agent. I'm gonna go ahead and say I want to keep these changes. This looks good. And now we're ready to go. So I can leave this place and just save my plan, or I can even start and actually create the tables if I'm done with my data models. So for example, let's say that I'm good to go. I'm going to go ahead and create my tables. So I'm going to go ahead and save tables. And now it's telling me to save it in a solution. So the planner is solution aware, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, save this as my reimbursement request system and solution. Let's click on advanced. You can select an existing solution, or you can also change your publisher. You click save. And it's starting to save a solution. It'll create the tables for me as well. Right now, the planner only works with Dataverse. So your environment, if you want to use the planner, needs to have a Dataverse database installed. So I'm not sure if other sources are going to come. I would hope so that other sources are going to come, but for now, Dataverse is what is currently supported. You can see the data agent is currently saving my tables. Sometimes it's a little bit faster, sometimes it's a little bit slower, but at the end of the day, it will create my tables, and you're going to be able to see they're going to go from gray to green once they're created. You see now they're green, meaning that my tables are created. And I can take it a step further if I want to. So I can also even create my app. It'll give me a basic app based on my requirements. So if I were to click here, I can choose to either create it, I can choose to replace it with an existing app that I already have in my environment, or I can convert it to a model-driven app. So in this case, let's go ahead and also hover over here. You'll see the user roles that are being used for this application. It's using my employee, my manager, and is using my tables. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. It'll take me to the studio. It's loading all my tables. It's loading the screens. And just like that, I have a Canvas app that is using the data that I just created, and it's giving me some basic screens to start working on. So all I have to do right now is just save and publish and make it available for my users to work on. If I were to go back into my solutions, you see that I have my solution here. And I can see everything that I've created so far. So I have my tables. I haven't chosen to create the flows, but if I had created the flows, they will be there. And you can also see that I have my plan as well. So I hope that this demo was able to give you all a nice feeling of the things that you can do with the planner and how easy it is to make your ideas a reality once you're working on the planner for Power Platform. I'm going to send it back to Ajay. Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you for that, Eli. Okay, hope everyone can see my screen. So just going to quickly go over like some of the additional things regarding how you can potentially use like pro code along with the low code. So even though today's session was mainly focusing around the low code solution and Copilot Studio and Power Apps and planners, so it doesn't mean that you cannot use the pro code side of things. So Microsoft have introduced code interpreter, which you can actually use for bringing some of the Python powered logic and everything into the Copilot Studio as well. So these are some of the things that Microsoft is heavily investing and then adding new functionalities every day. I mean, there was one of my colleagues literally mentioned that there are like so many changes that something that happened last week have been updated this week because Microsoft is constantly pushing new updates every now and then. So again, even though it is a low code, it doesn't mean that you cannot use some of the development experience and some of the pro code functionality as well. Anything
Yeah,
to add, Brian? Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get into, I'm not sure if you're bringing up the MCP stuff and everything as well. I'm not sure what other slides you have here, but this is really fantastic. I'm going to be doing a talk, I think, in a couple of weeks about the convergence between low code and pro code, and diving a little bit deeper into some of these concepts. But I've always thought of using the right tool for the job as being important, and more I'm leveraging these low code tools, but I get stuck, and there's just certain things that it's not capable of doing or not capable of doing well. This is a really good example of like being able to give a nice graph without having to do a round trip to something like Fabric or Power BI, and give users intuitive insights into the information based on the requests that they had. So this is a really cool feature that I look forward to playing with.
Thank you for that, Brian. And also wanted to quickly go over like some of the model support functionality that are going to be coming soon in Power Platform and Copilot Studio. So with these task-specific models that will be available in Copilot Studio, you can actually use some of these models for specific tasks. Like, for example, if you are from legal and if you want to like review some of the legal agreements, you can actually use one of these task-specific models to review and compare and then make sure that you get the appropriate feedback and then also even generate some of those things. So again, some of these are in preview, but really, great features and really looking forward to it. Okay, so I think that was pretty much it. And Brian, do you want to like briefly touch on this piece?
Yeah, so a lot of good questions in the meeting chat here too as well in Q&A. So first and foremost, I just want to say if you want to talk a little bit more about this with me or Eli or Ajay, we'd love to connect with you, for a one-on-one session. So fill out the survey link that Paige dropped in the chat, and we'll get back to you and reach out to you. So if you want, if you want to talk about Copilot Studio, agents, multi-agents, MCP, all that kind of good stuff, I'm really passionate about this technology. Another thing that we do pretty well here at Concurrency is just the M365. I think, Chris, you had a question about integrating this into Teams. Everything that we showed you today is about building applications in the Power Platform, and a natural channel to deploy those is inside of Microsoft Teams. We can create agents that you can use inside of M365 Copilot, and then we can help you with user adoption, making sure that people are getting the value out of it as well. But before we even get started with a lot of organizations, we want to make sure that your organization has the alignment from the executive team. And so we offer a workshop for your executive team to answer their questions. What does AI mean? What are other companies doing in this space? Making sure that they're on board before you start to bring these solutions to the organization. Getting that executive team aligned with that is a critical first step. And then often we'll get ideas out of the executive team, just by the questions that they ask. What do you think? Is this capable? Can we do this? Can we do that? So really good way to build momentum within the organization. Fill out that survey link. We'll reach out to you and get that follow-up session scheduled. But other than that, we'll stick around monitoring the chat here for a minute or two, but thanks to everybody for showing up. Really enjoyed it, and I love giving these talks.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, everyone.